What's going on YouTube? Badges here, back with another video for you guys. And today we're going to be cleaning up the engine bay on the SRT4, and I'm going to be removing the valve cover gasket, valve cover gasket, which you got to buy them new anyway. And then I'm going to be taking the intake manifold off, and I'm going to be painting that and probably a couple motor mounts, and that'll probably be it. So far we're just going to be starting off with the valve cover gasket and the valve cover itself, and there's tons of videos out there if you don't know how to remove it, but as you can see, I've already removed it. I got the plugs and everything sitting over here out of the way until I decided to put everything back to where it should be. So I removed it. I removed the gasket. I put the bolts back because that way I know where they're at. You don't want to lose them. But let's go ahead and get started with stripping the old paint off and getting ready to get it ready for new paint. Make sure you use engine paint. Do not use don't use the regular paint that you see at Walmart, like the paint that you can paint plastic and shit with. Don't use that. You want to make sure it has a temperature of 500 degrees or more. Not saying that this engine's ever going to see 500 degrees, but with the turbo, and the engines get hot. Any engine gets hot, whether it's NA or boosted. All engines get hot. So let's go ahead and make sure you, like I said, make sure that you guys get the right paint. Okay, let's go ahead and move over to the valve cover, and I'll show you what we're going to do there. Okay guys, we're back over here. We're going to be stripping this paint off. Make sure you wear gloves. I have to go in the house and get some gloves, but you can get this stripper. I'm not sponsored by anybody, but you can use this. It'll strip the old paint off. And then make sure you use a brush. Don't use your hands. It's stripper, for crying out loud. It'll burn your hands and your skin. But what you're going to do is you're going to open this up, put some, well, you need to get like a little bowl or something, which I'm going to do that, and dip it in there and just go around like this with it. And then once you do that, then you let it sit for like 15 minutes, and then it should all be bubbly, and then the paint should come off pretty easily. So let's go do that. Let's apply it and see what it looks like after 15 minutes. As you guys can see, it's already starting to bubble up. I should have covered up these holes, but I can clean them out really good before I put it back in the car. But yeah, I've added the paint thinner. It's doing its job. Just let it sit here and do its job, and then we'll be back. Alright guys, while that's sitting and soaking to get the rest of it off, we'll go over here and try to take the intake manifold off so we can paint it. Alright guys, we got the intake manifold off, and it's sitting over here. We're going to get it prepped and ready for paint, and I'm going to buy a new gasket. Don't be a cheapie. Make sure you replace all your gaskets. I might go ahead and throw in a new thermostat while I'm at it, but it should be back together by today. As long as everything dries and everything, we should be good. Alright guys, let me go ahead and get this shit painted, and I'll be back with you. Alright guys, I got it completely stripped. There is some spots, but that's where the bolts are going to go. I'm not really too worried about that. Just make sure where you're going to paint is nice and clean, and we can go ahead and start painting. Alright guys, I just laid down a couple coats. I'll let it sit here and dry. After it dries, the lettering, we can take some sandpaper or something and scrape off the paint after it dries. It's got a little bit of grease, really, but I think it adds like a, I don't know, some kind of like design or something to it. I know you're probably going to laugh at me, but I really don't care what it looked like, to be honest. At the day, this doesn't make you go fast. It just, it's just for looks, basically. I didn't like the way it looked when I bought the car, so I thought I would repaint it, make it look a little bit better than what it did. The intake is already painted black. It turned out really well. But we'll let this dry and then we'll put everything back together. Well guys, we got it all put back together. As you can tell, everything's buttoned up. I just started it, checked all the fluids and everything, topped off the fluids. That's why there's a little bit of wetness right there. But other than that, it's good to go. Looks a lot better. But that'll be it for today's video, guys. I'm Bad Disturb, Mopar, no car. Catch you guys in the next one.